If we jump down to chapter 12, verse 38, we read, certain of the scribes and of the Pharisees told Jesus, we want to see a sign from you. But he answered and said unto them, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall be no sign given to it but the sign of the prophet Jonah. For Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The men of Nineveh shall rise in judgment with this generation and shall condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and behold, a greater than Jonah is here. And again, once again, there's lots to unpack in this verse. There's been a few times, both in chapters 11 and 12 and over in Luke 11, where the Savior has kind of drawn a contrast between this other group had this level of night and knowledge. You have so much more, and you're missing the mark. It reminded us, we have a ton of light and knowledge today in our time, where much is given, much is required. But where I want to focus on is this idea of the connection between Jesus and Jonah. Just a few weeks ago in our Come Follow Me readings, we were in Mark chapter 4, where Jesus fell asleep in a storm, just like Jonah was asleep on a storm. And I want to read a quote from one of my favorite Christian authors. His name is Timothy Keller. He said, both Jesus and Jonah are in a boat. Both are in storms described in similar terms. Both boats are filled with others who are terrified of death. Both groups wake the sleeping prophets angrily, rebuking them. Both storms are miraculously calmed and the companions saved, and both stories conclude with the men in the boats more terrified after the storm is stilled than they were before. Every feature is the same, with one rather large apparent exception. Jonah is sacrificed into the storm, thrown into the deep, satisfying the wrath of God so the others will be saved from it. But Jesus is not. Or are the accounts so different at that point? Actually, Jesus is the ultimate Jonah who was thrown into the ultimate deep of eternal justice for us. How ironic it is that in Mark 4, the disciples ask, Teacher, don't you care if we drowned? They believe he is going to sleep on them in their hour of greatest need. Actually, it's the other way around. In the Garden of Gethsemane, they will go to sleep on him. They will truly abandon him, yet he loves them to the end. Jonah was thrown overboard for his own sin, but Jesus is thrown into the ultimate storm for our sin. And that's the end of the quote there. But I do think that's a really powerful reminder of the connections between Jesus and Jonah might be even more deep than we sometimes see on the surface.
Yeah.